It was 200 hours at Camp Rainier, a remote training base nestled deep in the Washington woods. The kind of place soaked in fog year-round, where shadows seemed alive and whispers carried far on the cold wind. Officially, the camp wasn't abandoned. It was inactive, as if that distinction mattered in a place where almost no one willingly went anymore. The barracks were empty, save for a skeleton crew of 6 soldiers assigned there for reasons none of them fully understood. Just a simple security rotation, their CO said, a routine assignment. But everyone could feel it the moment they arrived. Something wasn't right about this place. Day 1, they chalked it up to the isolation, the weather, the creaking of old wooden buildings settling after decades of neglect. But by nightfall, the unease became impossible to ignore. Private First Class Ramirez started hearing footsteps during fire watch, always going in the same direction, pacing along the gravel outside. Yet when he stepped out to investigate, no one was there. Corporal Fisher swore up and down she heard faint humming from the woods near the mess hall, a melody she couldn't quite place. And then there was Private Cole, who didn't hear anything, but complained about feeling cold spots in certain rooms of the barracks. Odd for springtime. None of this made sense, of course. Soldiers aren't the kind of people who let their imaginations run wild. You hear things on the job, especially at night. It's part of staying alert. But this was different. By the 3rd night, they couldn't ignore it any longer. Sarge, we're not alone out here.
You all need to get a grip. Camp Rainier's just old, that's all. Place makes noises, yeah, but we're alone out here. Focus on the mission.
The other 5 didn't seem so sure, and when Harris went off to catch some shut-eye, they started trading stories. Each one swore up and down they'd seen or heard something strange. Doors opening and closing by themselves, boots crunching in the gravel, an out-of-place laugh echoing faintly from the motor pool. Their stories slowly turned into a picture, though no one would admit they were scared. Soldiers learn early on to brush fear aside. But here the fear clung to the walls, heavy as the mist hanging in the air. Everything came to a head on the 4th night. It started at 1:30. Harris was in bed, Fisher was on watch, and Cole and Ramirez were playing cards when suddenly the whole barracks went dark. The lights didn't flicker, they didn't dim, they just died. Ramirez slapped the flashlight clip to his vest, the beam cutting jagged streaks into the suffocating darkness. Fisher, what's going on out there? Fisher's voice crackled over the comms, abruptly panicked.
I don't know. Power's out or something.
Moments later, there was the unmistakable sound of boots on hardwood, the hall leading to their proximity, heading toward them. Cole called out nervously into the silence, his voice a soft query against the oppressive night. But the steps didn't respond. They just kept coming. Even Ramirez, who had a reputation for staying cool under pressure, found his hand reflexively tightening around his rifle. When they finally swung open the door to see who or what was moving through the old barracks, the light from Ramirez's flashlight danced chaotically over an empty hall. Nobody there. But the steps kept going, quieter now, continuing down toward an impossible destination. Ramirez shouted instinctively, his words echoing far too loud, silencing any other noise. That was when Fisher broke through over the radio, trembling.
Guys, I'm at the perimeter fence and I'm staring at some kind of figure. Movement, but I can't tell what I'm looking at.
Ramirez and Cole exchanged a look that screamed mutual dread, but orders were orders. They told her to stay put before bolting out into the night, flooding the area with torchlight. When they reached her at the western edge of the fence, Fisher's relief was visible, though her face was pale. Her breathing came in short gasps that betrayed her usual tough veneer.
It was right there.
All 3 soldiers shone their lights on the spot. Nothing.
Look, I know it sounds crazy, but I swear there was something, just standing there, and it wasn't moving like it was real. It was...
She trailed off, unable to find the words to finish. Let's head inside. They were too spooked to argue, but heading inside didn't make things better. In fact, it may have been worse. By the time all 6 soldiers regrouped, the strange noises had escalated to full-blown commotion. A muffled hammering sound seemed to come from the walls themselves, followed by whispered voices that no one could quite locate. Someone else's words, low, guttural phrases in no identifiable language, echoed. Doors slammed even though they were locked. No one admitted it out loud, all disciplined to maintain their posture as soldiers, but their eyes darted nervously toward every shadow. And then Harris did the one thing that broke them. It wasn't a battle cry or an act of frustration. It was primal, guttural terror that made every other noise stop cold. They found him cowering behind a desk in the far dormitory, his hands pressed tightly over his ears like he was trying to drown something out. "They came back," he whimpered almost inaudibly, shaking his head back and forth. "They always come back." "What? Who?" Fisher demanded, kneeling next to him. But Harris's wide, vacant stare said he wasn't all there anymore. "You can't stop them. They're just leftovers, bouncing off places like echoes. I thought we left them in Sangin," he murmured. At first, no one understood what he meant, until memories, darker ones from their deployments overseas, bubbled to the surface. The ambush, the casualties, the unit that never came home. 5 boys whose dog tags had been shipped stateside and laid to rest. What Harris was implying was impossible. But impossibility didn't matter anymore. Not when the hammering sound returned at that very moment. Louder this time, closer. It was coming from the walls, or maybe beneath the floor itself. Each slam synchronized with Harris flinching, like he felt it ripple through his very bones. That's when the air went cold. All 6 of them felt it. Cole let out an audible gasp and took an unconscious step back, slamming into the wall like he wanted to push through it. And then it appeared. A figure, not opaque, not solid, a suggestion of form rather than anything real. A fragment of a soldier dressed in torn, mismatched fatigues from another era. The misty suggestion of eyes regarded them for only an instant before flickering out of view. That instant was all it took. By dawn, the squad had packed up completely and called in the incident as an equipment malfunction. No one said a word about the figure, or about Harris, who was quietly transferred out when it became clear he would never wear the uniform again. Camp Rainier was decommissioned officially 2 years later. No investigations, no records kept, just erased, like it never existed. But sometimes, during foggy nights in that valley, there are still reports. Locals who hear echoes in the mist, deep, monotonous footsteps on the gravel path, or quiet voices in the empty barracks. No one's sure who or what is still there, but something watches, something waits. Always.